Okay, good day everyone. So today we're going to discuss about the Slovin's formula and sampling techniques. Okay, so when we say Slovin's formula, it is a formula that commonly used to calculate the sample size, which is given the population size and margin of error. Okay, so again, Slovin's formula is to determine the appropriate sample size, which is given the population size and margin of error. Okay, so this will be the formula that we're going to use, where the small n here is the sample size, the big letter N here is the population size, and then the letter E is the margin of error. Okay, so when we say margin of error, it is some refers a confidence interval. Okay, so it tells you how much you can expect on your survey or your sample size from the population you have. Okay, so you can think also as the margin of error a way of measuring how effective your survey. Okay, so you can use, if you have a research, you can use the Slovin's formula in order for you to see how effective your survey is. Okay, so the smaller value of the margin of error, the more confidence or the more accurate the results you have. Okay, pag bigger value po siya, malayo po yung makukuha nyo na sagot dun sa total population na meron kayo. Okay, so this will be, okay, again po, tandaan po tong formula na to, gagamitin po natin ito. Okay, so let's have an example. Example number 1. What is the appropriate sample size if the size of the target population is 500 and if a margin of error is 5% is used? Okay, so given po natin dito, we have a population of 500 and then margin of error of 5%. Okay, so ang hinahanap po natin is yung sample size. Okay, so pag hahanap po yung sample size, gagamitin po natin yung Slovin's formula. Okay, where n is equals to population size over 1 plus n, or population size times the margin of error raised to 2. Okay, so before that po, pag margin of error, kung napapansin nyo, percentage po siya. Pag nag-compute po kayo dito, or using the Slovin's formula po, yung margin of error, ginagawa po siyang decimal. Okay, so we convert the percentage into decimal po. Okay, di ba usually ang ginagawa natin from decimal, convert to the percentage. Dito po, yung percentage po dito, gagawin po natin decimal. Okay, using the Slovin's formula. Okay, so substitute lang po natin yung mga given data natin, which is the population. We have 500 and then a margin of error of 0.05. Okay, so simply substitute. We have for the n, or the for the big letter N, we have 500 over 1 plus big letter N, we have 500 times the margin of error of 0.05 or 5% raised to 2. So therefore, we have N is equals to 222.22. Okay, so dito po sa sample size, wala po siyang decimal. Dapat po siya whole number. Okay, so pag may decimal po siya, gagawin po natin siyang whole number o i-run off po natin siya. Okay, di ba po usually pag nag-run off tayo, pag nag-run off lang tayo, dapat 5 to 9. Okay, so dito po, regardless kung maliit man po yung value ng decimal, i-run off po natin siya or gagawin po natin siyang whole number. So, mangyayari po dito is magiging 223. Okay, so the sample size in the given population, which is 500, is 223. Okay, so let's have another example. Example number 2. If the margin of error in the above example is changed to 10%, what is the acceptable size of the sample? Okay, so substitute lang po natin sa Slovin's formula natin. Okay, so yung papalitan lang po natin is yung margin of error, which is 10%. So again, yung percentage po natin dito, i-convert natin siya sa decimal. So mangyari niyan, 500 over 1 plus 500 times 0.10 raised to 2. So you have the sample size of 83.33. Okay, so again po, sample size is always a whole number. So therefore, i-run off po natin siya. So we'll be having a sample size of 84. Okay, clear po ba? Okay, so let's have another example. Okay, so try nyo po itong i-solve para maintindihan nyo po. So, substitute na lang po sa Slovin'S formula natin. Okay, so the population size is 350 and then the margin of error of 5%. Or for the decimal, we have 0.05. Okay, so yan. So, 350 over 1 plus 350 times 0.05 raised to 2, we have the sample size of 186.67. So, nakadesimal siya. So, i-round off natin ulit. So, magiging 187. Okay, so the sample size of the population of 350 and margin of error 5% is 187. Okay? So, sampling techniques. When we say sampling techniques, it is a method of gathering information about population by taking a representative of the population called sample. Okay, so here's the example. So, from the population, and then, for example po, sa section niyo po, kukuha ako ng 10 lang po sa inyo. Okay, so, yung 10 na yun na kukunin ko sa section nyo, yun po yung tinatawag na sample. Okay, so yung section nyo naman po, kabuuan, yun po yung tinatawag na population. Okay, so next. Sampling techniques. In sampling techniques, there are two types of probability. First is the probability sampling and second is the non-probability sampling. Okay, so in probability sampling, there are 4. First is simple random sampling. Second is systematic random sampling. Third, stratified random sampling. And fourth is cluster sampling. And for non-probability sampling, we have convenience sampling and quota sampling. Okay, probability sampling, it is a techniques in which the subjects of the population get an equal opportunity to be selected as a representative sample. So, when we say equal, lahat po may chances na ma-select po kayo sa sampling. Okay, so the first type of probability sampling, we have simple random sampling. Okay, so when we say simple random sampling, it is done by drawing lots or through the use of random numbers. Okay, so let's have an example for the simple random sampling. A class list comprising of 50 names is cut into strips, rolled up, and put it in bowl. Then strips, the names, are then drawn from the bowl. Okay, so the 10 names that were picked are collectively called the simple random sampling. Okay, so next, stratified random sampling. So when we say stratified random, it is from the word strata or by group. Okay, it is done by first dividing the population into a number of overlapping subpopulation or strata and then taking samples from each stratum. Okay, so like for example, sa Pilipinas po, kukuha ako sa Visayas, sa Mindanao, at saka sa Luzon. Okay? So, yung kinuha nyo po, they are called the stratified random sample, and then yung Pilipinas, they are called the population. So, in stratified random sampling, there are two types of allocation. First is the equal allocation, and the second one is the proportional allocation. So, the formula for the equal allocation, we have n sub I is equals to n over k. Okay, so where n is the intended simple size, and then the k is the number of strata or subpopulation. Okay, so let's have an example for the equal allocation. A company is composed of 24 administrative staff, 38 support staff, and 52 electrical staff. You wish to conduct a work motivation survey on 50 staff. How many staff should we choose from each group? Okay, so using the formula of the equal allocation, substitute lang po natin, we have to given a 50. Okay, so yung 50 po, siya po yung intended sample size, And then yung 3 po is yung administrative, support, at saka yung electrical. Okay, they are the subpopulation. Okay, so simply divide 3, so we have 16.77, or to run up we have 17. Okay, so therefore we conclude that 70 staff should be chosen from each group. Okay, next. The proportional allocation. So the proportional allocation, we have this formula where n sub I is equals to n sub quantity n sub 1 over n times the small n. Okay, where the n sub 1 is the subpopulation of stratum, and the big letter N is the population size, and then the small n here is the intended sample size. Okay, so let's have an example. Example for the proportional allocation. A company is composed of 24 administrative, 38 support staff, 52 electrical staff, and 10 contractual staff. You wish to conduct a motivation survey on 50 staff. How many staff should be taken from each subpopulation? Okay, so again, using the formula, substitute lang po natin. So, ang una pong gagawin, ipag-a-add nyo po yung mga subpopulation na meron po tayo. So, we're going to add 24, or the administrative, support, the electrical, and then the contractual. So, for the administrative, we have 24, plus the support staff, we have 38. For the electrical staff, we have 52, and then for the contractual, we have 10. So, the total of 124. Okay? So, pwede po siya yung sa administrative, we can name it as a N sub 1 for the support staff, N sub 2 for the electrical staff, N sub 3, and then for the contractual, it is N sub 4. Okay? So, let's solve first for the administrative. Like for example, we're going to solve for the allocation of the N sub 1. Okay? So, hanapin natin yung proportional allocation ng N sub 1. So, to find, pag-add nyo po muna yung mga given population size natin. So, 124. Then, hahanapin natin yung N sub 1 natin. So, the N sub 1, we have here 24. So, mangyayari, substitute natin ng given, we have 24 over the total subpopulation, we have 124. And then, multiply it to the intended sample size, we have 50. So, therefore, the sample size for the administrative is 9.67, or to run up, we have 10. Okay? So, the sample size of the administrative that is wish to conduct a work motivation survey is 10. Okay? For support naman po, or N sub 2, so yung N sub 2 natin, we have 38. Okay? So, simply substitute for the N sub 2, we have 38, and then for the N, or the population size, we have 124. So, 38 over 124 times 50. So, we have the sample size. For the support, we have 15.32. Or to run off, we have 16. Okay? So, for electrical naman po, for N sub 3, we have 52. Okay? So, 52 over 124 times 50 is equals to 20.96. Okay? So, run off again. So, we'll be having 21. Okay? For the contractual naman, for the N sub 4, we have 10. Okay? So, 10 divide 124 times 50, so we have 4. Okay? So, for the sample size of the administrative, we have 10. For the support, we have 16. For electrical, we have 21. And then for the contractual, we have 4. Okay, so yung gagawin niyo po, for example, hahanapin niyo po yung allocation po ng n sub 3. So, ang gagawin niyo po muna, ipag-add niyo po muna yung lahat ng mga population size and then or yung mga subpopulation. Pag na-add nyo na po yung mga lahat ng subpopulation, isosolve nyo na po siya. Okay, so for example, ngayon, nahanap po yung n sub 3. So, kukunin nyo po yung value ng n sub 3 and then i-divide sa total population. Okay, and then after, i-multiply nyo siya sa intended sample size. Okay, so that will be your the sample size of the stratified using the stratified random sampling. Okay? So, tandaan again, using the proportional allocation, okay, so pag pinapahanap po sa inyo yung allocation po ng, for example, n sub 5, and then they're given population, we have n sub 1, for example, we have 5, and then so therefore we have n sub 1, n sub 2, n sub 3, n sub 4, and then n sub 5. So ang gawin, ipag-add nyo po yon, and after nyo pag-add, kunin nyo po yung value, and then next is the n sub 5 over the total, and then solve for it, then multiply the intended sample, and that will be the allocation for the given, or kung ano po yung hinahanap. Okay, next, systematic random sampling. So when we say systematic random sampling, it is a sampling is done by selecting every nth element in the population with the starting point determined at random. Okay, ayan po siya. Okay, for example, pag sinabi natin systematic, okay, magbilang kayo ng 1 to 5. So, lahat po ng 1 sa first group, kukunin ko. Sa second group, lahat, yung pang-5, kukunin ko. Yung pang-third group, yung pangalawa, kukunin ko. Okay, so ganyan po siya yung systematic. Okay, so uulitin mo lang siya yung process. Okay, so next. So, this will be the formula that we're going to use. Where I is equals to n, where n is the population size, and then the small n is the sample size. For example, if a company which has 5,000 employees wishes to conduct a job satisfaction survey and 400 employees, then to compute is just simply substitute for the population size, we have 5,000. And then for the sample size, we have 400. So therefore, we have 12.5 or 13. Okay, so therefore, we conclude the systematic randomization can be done by selecting every 13th person in employee list. Okay, so cluster sampling. So when I say cluster sampling, it is done by dividing the population into geographical groups called cluster. Okay. So, yan po siya. By cluster po yung pag-pick ng sample size. Okay, non-probability sampling. In non-probability sampling, these samples are chosen in such a way that sample members of the population may not have any chance of being included in sample. Okay, so there are two types, convenience and quota. So first, let's go ahead and discuss the convenience. So when I say convenience sampling, it is selecting those members of the population that are readily available in order to obtain weak results. So the example of it is surveys done by television programs where viewers are asked to text their vote on some issues. The members of the sample will only be those who watch the TV program, who have cell phone loads, and who are personally compelled to cast their votes. Okay? So, hindi lahat may equal chances na mapili. Okay, so yung quota. The quota sampling is choosing members for the sample with no other criteria or objectives but to obtain a certain target number, whether or not based on the proportion of each stratum with the population. For example, nagbebenta ka. Kasi yung quota mo, makabenta ka ng 3 dozen ng itlog. For example. Okay, so kailangan mo makabenta ng 3 dozen na itlog. Okay, so kotahin mo yung 3 dozen. Clear? So, that's all for today. So, again po, the Slovin'S formula is commonly used to calculate the sample size. Okay, so it is n is equals to big letter N, or sample population size over 1 plus population size times the margin error raised to 2. Okay, and then for the stratified random sampling, there are 2 types of allocation. First is equal allocation, and then the second one is the proportional allocation. Okay, so for the sampling techniques, there are 2 types. First is probability sampling and non-probability sampling. And then for the probability sampling, we have simple random sampling, stratified random sampling, systematic random sampling, and then cluster sampling. Okay, for the non-probability sampling, we have convenience sampling and quota sampling. Okay, so aralin niyo po yung, or pakitandaan niyo po yung formula na nasa video po. Okay, so good luck and thank you.